All right, ladies and gentlemen, and automotive enthusiasts from all around this great planet that we drive around on called Earth, you've done it again. You've pushed play on yet another
rambustious episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
rambustious.
That's right, man. That means boisterous or unruly, and we're blowing it out today.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm your host, Kevin Ostie, joined, as always, by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Huball Clark, and we have a very special guest on the line today, Mr. Miles Kovacs. Miles, welcome to V8 Radio.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
I hope you're ready for a rambustious time.
I am, actually. I am.
Right on.
Good. Okay, so to those who have listened to the show before, you know we start each episode with kind of a silly automotive trivia question in which we ask each other in the beginning the question, but we hold the answer till the very end of the show to kind of keep people hanging. You know, we got to give them something good to listen to, even though they're certainly going to get something out of Miles for a change instead of just Mike and I.
Right.
Mike, have you prepared a trivia question for us?
I certainly have prepared a trivia question, and before I unleash it, I just need to apologize. It's not my best effort. I was struggling a bit today. Miles, you deserve better. Our listeners deserve better. Everybody deserves better than what they're about to get here. But here we go. All right. So picture in your mind, you're in your high-speed luxury cruiser. You find yourself a nice, wide open stretch of road, and you just put it all the way down and you go wide open. Your car is going over 150 miles an hour. What is the speed rating on your tires need to be in order to do this safely?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, being a gracious host, I'm going to let our guest, Mr. Miles Kovacs, take the first shot at that one. What do you think, buddy?
Oh, you want me to answer now?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
They have to have a ZR rating.
A Z rating.
Z rating. All right.
He fired that one off kind of quick there.
He did.
You think
I'm
this
starting
guy
to
knows
think he
something
knows
about
what he's
wheels
talking
and tires?
about. Yeah.
Oh, right on. Okay. Well, this is another one of those situations where I'm going to side with our guest and say, yes, it is a Z rating.
Right on.
Oh,
Kevin
wait.
says Z rating.
Hold on. 150 is what you said, right? 150 miles an hour?
Yes.
150. Yeah, it is a Z. That's my guess.
Okay.
Right before that is V, right?
I don't know.
And then,
Is it?
And then
Beats me.
H. Yeah, I'm going to say it's Z also.
All right.
So there you
Duly noted, gentlemen.
go. All right. Miles, have you thought anything about a possible trivia question to play Stump the Chumps over here?
I have a good one. It's
no.
basically true or false. Okay.
All right.
Were windshield wipers on your vehicle once illegal and considered a driver's distraction? True or false?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Kevin, I have a feeling because you're a gracious host, you're going to let me answer that first.
I certainly am.
All right. Were windshield wipers once considered a driver's hazard and they were illegal? True or false? Yeah. I am... I want to say true, but I'm gonna say false on that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go
Mike
false.
says false.
Mike says false. Yeah.
Well, I would say to me that's kind of a multi-parter because I would say yes, they were considered a distraction, but were they considered illegal? Is the double-edged sword there? But because Mike said false, I'm going to say true that it was considered distracting and illegal.
Good.
So we will find out the answer to that one at the end of the show. That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Yeah. It's good and trivial. It's right up our alley. And I prepared one as well. Sometimes we try to align our questions with our guest, like what Mike did with his tire rating. So what was the earliest known mention of the term dub in film?
Ooh. Oh, man. Miles, since I'm a gracious co-host, I'm going to let you answer that one first.
I mean, I have no idea. I would think it would probably be in film.
In film, and I will go out on a limb here and say that I'm not sure the definition of dub is consistent with everybody.
No, yeah, no, I mean it's a duplicate like a dub. So, if it's film as in motion picture or film as in just film, like still camera film, because those are
Film
two
is
different
in
things.
correct. Film is in motion picture.
So I would probably say early 1900s.
Oh my gosh. Early
Wow.
1900s.
I don't know. I mean, that sounds old. Is that not old?
It does sound old, but it's a great answer.
Mhm.
Write it down. Early 1900s.
Uh,
Okay.
All right. All right. I'll take a stab at this one.
Say you, Mr. Q.
Yeah, I will say the earliest known mention of the word dub in film was, and I don't know what year it came out, but I'll say the first Fast and the Furious film,
Hmm.
whatever year that was. What is that?
That's for you to answer.
2000? Gosh darn it, I don't know the year.
You're gonna
Year 2000, Y2K.
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 Says, possibly in an Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, well, our listeners will all be holding their breath to the end of the show to get the answer to these riveting questions and more.
And more.
Right on. So at this point, I'd like to bring out our guest, Mr. Miles Kovacs. And Miles is a guy who is one of the founders of the basically the dub universe, and is a guy who's been involved not only with cars but also in entertainment and a whole lifestyle, and has really done some amazing things from a grassroots level on up. So Miles, I appreciate you taking the time and joining us today.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh yeah. Well, you think it's an opportunity now, but really, it'll be a big letdown. So you're a busy guy, and for those who listen to our show, which is primarily American cars, muscle cars kind of stuff, you're a little bit on the outside of the hobby that we stand in. But tell us a little bit about how the whole Dub magazine and the Dub events and all that stuff got started, because the story is really incredible.
I'm a street kid from East LA, and I've always been a fan of low riding. So I used to, I learned how to read by reading Lowrider magazine, not by being in school,
Mm-hmm.
because school was just really tough for me. It made me feel stupid. I was diagnosed with an eye disease called keratoconus at age 11, so I was almost legally blind in my left eye, and I had the disease in both eyes. So it's hard for me to study, to read, and I was a typical kid too. I didn't want to be in school.
Right.
So I struggled, but the lowrider culture was something that I really wanted to be involved with and just understand and really learn about. So I kind of forced myself to read Lowrider magazine besides just look at the pictures. But it was
Mm-hmm.
just more like what size rim was on there, what brand, some of the specs and things like that. So just kind of understanding it wasn't like reading every single sentence, but I got a good idea of how to read from that, and then just kind of worked it on. And then so I've always had this utmost respect for Lowrider magazine and the founders. And as I progressed in my life, I got kicked out of high school, worked at a local rim store when I got kicked out as a delivery driver. It was called Modern Auto. And they basically gave me my shot. I was 16, and I would go over there and sweep the floor and drive and drop off wheels and stuff like that. And, just kind of got that whole start, and then moved into sales management, launched their mail order, took their mail order from 0 a month to over 150,000 a month. And just,
Wow.
yeah, no, zero a month to 150,000 a month, and
Yeah.
just killing it, and just learning about business, as it came, and just being eager. I wish I still push myself every day to stay curious, because that's what I was when I was young. I was just curious, and I wanted to learn everything and about everything. So I still kind of push myself. I think sometimes I become more complacent because I feel like I already know. So it's like I'm less searching, but I really push myself to search and really, interact with people, and try to push myself out of my comfort zone every day.
That's
So go,
it's really impressive, especially to start literally at the ground floor and sweeping the floor and be curious enough not only to be curious about the business but also to learn it and then to master it and be able to deliver with this maybe preconceived hindrance that you weren't a good student or something, and you basically just
yeah.
shattered all that and went to town.
Yeah, I mean, I was a terrible student. I mean, I was failing all my classes. I was a disruption. I would get upset. I threw chairs at teachers, and I was,
Oh wow.
just yeah, I was definitely. When I got kicked out of school, the folder was probably like 5 inches thick of all the referrals I've gotten from being in school. I mean, it was a eye opener too, because I never thought I was bad, you know. And
Yeah.
then when they started, I had to go to like this hearing, and they just started reading all of my referrals one by one, and I was thinking, "Damn, did I do that? Yeah, I did that
Wow.
too." You know,
This kid's
so
terrible. Who's that?
yeah. So
Man.
just kind of looking at all of those things and kind of feeling, like I just felt like I didn't belong there, and the tough thing is the teachers made me feel stupid, you know,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and a lot of them, well, at that time, none of them knew I had a disability. They just thought I was lazy.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
made it tough. And then my parents were too proud in a negative way that they didn't tell anybody. So here I am struggling in school and everything in my life. And my parents were like, "You're perfect. Don't tell anybody any different. And you're perfect. And just don't tell anybody any different." And I'm sitting there like, one, I don't feel too perfect. And two, I'm struggling, man.
Right.
You
This is
know?
hard.
Yeah. So eventually I got glasses, got contacts and stuff, and struggled with, the contacts for a while, and ended up going technically legally blind twice, and I had two cornea transplants. I just had one last year.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. I mean, going blind is a real is a real eye-opening experience, and blind for me isn't like you. I can always see lights and like reflections and stuff like that, so it's not like
Hmm.
total darkness, but man, it's like you become a wounded animal, whenever I'm on edge or something's going on with my eye, it's like, guess what, I'm vicious,
Mm.
like it's like you just kick in this fight or flight, and I lived almost my whole life like that. And it's really tough mentally, physically, emotionally, but I find my outlets to, whether it's work. I love working, so I bury myself in work. Obviously, I meditate now, which I didn't do before. So I meditate 2 to 3 hours a day,
Mm.
regardless. I work probably till 3 or 4 in the morning. So I sleep well. I don't like waking up in the morning. That's one of the characteristics I carried over from my teen years. I'm not a morning guy, but
Yeah.
man, I could work all night, like long. And, I stopped drinking caffeine. Um, so I just drink water, but I have more energy than most people. I mean, by,
Yeah.
by far, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
so it's kind of interesting once you kind of get in tune with your body and you really work it as like an instrument. It's like, playing the flute or trumpet or playing the drums. It's like you get into sync, and it works. Um, so I really been focusing on that personally, and just getting myself in a place mentally, physically, and emotionally where I'm stable, because it's tough. Anything could trigger me and all these other stuff. And, it's like we talked about before. I mean, I wanted to commit suicide since I was 7, so it's like having that. And then my brother committed suicide last year. It's tough. It's a
Yeah.
tough thing. I don't know. And with all this COVID stuff, it's really depressing, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, one. And two, I launched Stub Magazine in '99, and that was basically coming out of like a recession. So I've always looked at recessions as opportunities,
Hmm.
opportunities to change, opportunities to evolve, to do different things. I mean, I was just on a call earlier consulting for an education company, and they're talking about how, the schools might not reopen. I said, good, everything should be virtual. There should be no going to school, forcing yourself to go to school. It should be virtual, or it should be group taught, to where you go in the parks and you're in this open atmosphere and you're learning and doing all this stuff, but most importantly, learning what you actually love.
Mm.
Just like colleges or universities, we're discussing that. It's like, why do I have to take all these classes I don't need to be a major in this? Why can't I just do 4 years in that and be an expert?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I mean, I lived kind of a similar childhood, but nowhere near as challenging. I mean, my learning disabilities were self-imposed, because I was lazy and I didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
But you were reading Lowrider, I was reading Hot Rod, so we had kind of the same thing going
Yep.
on. And I cared far more about that than I did my biology book or the other stuff, my math or algebra. I could care less until I learned that I could start to use mathematics when it came to cars and engines and suspension. And then all of a sudden
Mhm.
it's like, oh no, I need to learn this stuff to advance. So
Yeah. Well, I never felt like I needed it because those calculators, so I was good. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's true
So
too.
Yeah.
totally different. If I was using like back in the day, I mean, I just shared a picture on Facebook where it's like an abacus where you're adding and stuff with
Mhm.
abacus, and I'm like, who used one of these? And it's
Right.
just like think of how archaic it was back then on kind of what we had available to us, and then all this technology just came in, and it's like, wow, now it's obviously a technology overload, but you don't need to go to the library. You don't need to learn the system where you look up the books and all that stuff that was so difficult to figure out when I was younger, just to know where they are. But now the technology, I mean, you want to learn anything, it's all online. You want to, watch a video on how to make it. You could watch a video on almost anything. It's
Yep.
amazing.
Right
So
now.
it's we're in a different world, and the kids today are growing up with social media, with technology, with all of these things. They don't know any different. So they're not going to be
Hmm.
able to sit there and go, I remember when I had a telephone line in my house and I used to stretch the cord because I wanted some privacy. And I used to lay down the hall with this stretched out cord, pulling it as far as I could so nobody could hear what I'm talking about, you know?
Right. Right.
Or calling people up and calling girls and being like, oh hi, is so and so there? And they're like, the mom's answering the phone or the dad. You're like, no, she's not here right now.
Right.
It's like, damn. you know
Oh, if I
it's
had a
like,
nickel for every time I heard that.
Oh
yeah
yeah.
you know
She doesn't
so
want to talk to you anyway.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just kind of going through that. But the beautiful thing is, like I was saying, is during these tough times, there's tremendous opportunities. I mean, we also own TIS and Dropstars wheels, and it's predominantly off-road wheels right now. And
Hmm.
our sales are up 100% from last year, and our
Holy
sales were
Holy
up
smokes.
last
cows.
year. Yeah, our sales were up last year about 60%. So in
Wow.
2 years, we're up 160%.
Man,
So yeah,
congratulations.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, our social media, we had 23 million impressions in the last 90 days.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's
gosh.
serious. That is serious.
So, and that's not Dub. That's the wheel side of it. Dub's also doing really well on that side of it, but it's tough because Dub's the shows, and it's more old school, right? It's not following the new technology as much as potentially we're doing with the wheels, and we're
Right.
evolving, and trying to get that methodology change within our staff and stuff. But with having no shows to do, it's like, okay, what do? We got to focus on social media and online and stuff like that. So it puts a renewed focus into the business, and I think it's exciting. Is it scary? Absolutely, but
Hmm.
if it's not scaring you, it's not exciting. It's like going fast in a car. It's like, if it's not scary, it's not exciting.
Right, right. Well, so you just touched on an interesting thing. So, with the Dub brand starting back in '99, you're already like a generation and a half, almost 2 generations into this.
Bro, I mean, it's been 20 years. I mean, we're whack. We're old school now. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? All,
We're the squares now, man.
yeah, yeah. All the things we've done, and I consult and help, mentor, younger people, and not kids, but gen, um, Gen Y, Gen Z, and all this other stuff, the millennials. And I ask them, do you know about this? They're like, no. Okay, have you heard about this? No. The only thing,
Right.
honestly, they've ever heard about that I could talk about is usually our video game, because they played our video game when they were 7. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's crazy how it's their evolution. But the good thing is, I like to hear that, because then it's like, okay, well, you know what? I need to reinvent myself. I need to do something differently, because I don't want to force these kids to have to learn about me. I need to do something to make myself either relevant or not care about these people at all and just really focus on my niche. And
Hmm.
what I've noticed is the riches are in the niches.
Hmm.
Huh.
So it's like, it's that niche opportunity. I mean, look at, even hot rodding. I mean, hot rodding, when Robert Peterson said, Leo, I'm going to call that a hot rod. That was not a hot rod before. It was a custom car. Okay. And then Alberto Lopez said, I like that hot rod, but I'm going to put wire wheels on it, and I'm going to call it lowrider. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing. And then when
Yep.
Dub, all we did was say, hey, that car has 20-inch or bigger wheels on it. We're going to call that Dub. And then
Yep.
it created that. So what's amazing is how media could basically create that cult following, and it creates that niche. It's
I
like,
think
wow, it's like,
it'll
yeah,
create
go.
that niche if the vibe is already there. Everything was already kind of moving towards the 20+ inch wheel size and low profile
Mhm.
tires. That whole kind of style was already kind of happening. You just kind of put a lasso around it and pulled it together and kind of named it, and boom. And when you were doing that, was that did you think of those two references that you just gave me? Did you think, we could do similar to what Lopez did with Lowrider if we call these type of vehicles Dubs? Was that the goal,
Yeah.
or did that just kind of happen?
No, I think it happened, but I'm a really big guy in kind of models. So I view companies and I try to model them, right? So it's like, what do? They do shows, they do this. So I create kind of like a spreadsheet of all the things they do, and then all the things that I think they should do. And then I put that together and say, okay, what is the opportunity? Where are the holes in their
Ah,
business? So to me, I've always admired Lowrider, the shows and everything. And I said, there's two things that they're doing that I think are not good for them in a growth opportunity. One was they were only 13-inch wire wheels. So if the guy had 20-inch wire wheels, they didn't feature them. And they were predominantly Hispanic. So if a Japanese guy from Tokyo might have had wire wheels, I mean, they featured some guys, but not really. If you're African American, you usually didn't get featured in Lowrider until later on. Early
mm-hmm,
on, you were Hispanic on 13-inch and maybe 14s, and that was
mm-hmm,
it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they had a micro niche going, and that really helped them grow. But when hip hop music and clubs started diversifying and people and gentrifying and all these other things, then it became less nichey, and it's kind of like, well, you know what? I'm Hispanic, but I drive a car with Dubs on it now. I kind of saw that. So what triggered those two things that triggered my idea to start Dub back there in 1999 was one, lowrider didn't evolve into the African American space and embrace what I call African American hip hop music, because they were so used to just Hispanic, Chicano rap music.
Mm-hmm.
So and then at the time I was doing street promotions for a magazine called The Source Magazine, which is the East Coast hip hop magazine based out of New York, and they had all these artists, and all this other stuff, and I was just like, yo, this is hot. And then hip hop started kind of invading the West Coast with East Coast hip hop, and we also had the gangster rap, but
Mm-hmm.
it was different. It was kind of evolving, like melting. So I looked at that, and then what I did was I looked at their ABC audit for the Source magazine, which is their circulation audit, and
Mm-hmm.
they were putting out 500 plus thousand magazines, but it was all kind of on the East Coast and down south. So it's like the Smile States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I looked up a Lowriders audit, and they were the West Coast, almost identical distribution, but it was East Coast and West Coast. So I said, if I put those two markets together, I could have the whole U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the indicators. The under indicator was I was in my hotel room. I think back in the day I was at the SEMA show. I was at the first, or I was at SEMA. No, no, sorry, I was at the Magic show. I was at the fashion conference in Vegas. And I walked in after partying in the club, and I turned on the TV, and there was an auction, like a car auction on. And it might have been Barrett Jackson or whatever. And they go, "This car is a celebrity-owned car. It's going to sell for double the value." And I'm sitting there going, "Whose car is it?" It was I remember it was a white Mercedes S500, Remtech engine, Lorenzer body kit, Lorenzer wheels. I mean, it was really, really done right. Really, really nice car. And they go, "This car is going to sell double the value because it's owned by a celebrity," and then it's sold for double the value. And they go, "Thank you for Alan Jackson, the celebrity owner." And I'm
Mm.
thinking, who the hell is Alan Jackson?
Yeah, right.
I'm going, who the hell is Alan Jackson? And I didn't know until after I asked somebody, and they're like, "Oh, it's a country music singer." I was like, that's crazy that a country music singer, this cowboy dude, could give that much value to that Benz. Imagine if I did something with Dre or Pac or Snoop or any of these guys with that
Yep.
same car, because they would drive that same car. And that gave me the juices to do the concept for Dub Magazine. So it was Alberto Lopez not wanting to widen his niche, even though the market was changing. And one of the other indicators was lowrider advertising started to become big chrome rims. So their advertising didn't match their content. So I looked at that as an opportunity.
Oh man, that's all really,
So
really sharp stuff, my friend.
yeah, so you know, a lot of people, you got to look at indicators. It's like when you look at an ecosystem, it's like this eats this eats this eats this builds this tears it down, this does this. Here's the predators, here's the prey. Like if you really look at life in that way, dude, it's pretty easy to follow and understand what's going on. But the problem is most people are trying to find that big idea or get rich quick, so they're not looking at any indicators. They're just looking at the opportunity, and they get, you know, blinded by the glitter, you know?
Yeah, you're right. But it does take a special kind of mindset to be able to start identifying those indicators too.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you know, it's Newsweek magazine named me as one of the top 10 big thinkers for big business in the 21st century. And they called me. I said, dude, you got the wrong number, man. You know, I'm a street kid. I could barely read. You know, we have a small
Nope.
business, but it was, you know, trending. But they said they recognized me for my thinking. And then I remember going home. I don't think I was married, or maybe not. And I was talking to my wife now. And I asked her back then, I said, you know, do I think differently than most people? And she's like, yeah, people don't see what you see. So you're talking to them about what you're seeing, and nobody has a clue. Nobody
Yeah,
has a clue.
right.
And then when nobody understands what I'm talking about, I used to get really upset and get frustrated. So
Huh.
from that day forward, I really worked on painting pictures with words. So that way I could explain to them, and I'm trying to get them to visualize what I'm seeing. But the beautiful thing about that is they have their own creative expression. So they could take what I'm doing and make it better, you know? So I
Sure.
encourage
If they get
people
it,
to
yeah.
do that. Yeah, I mean, but even if they don't get it, it might spawn like a different opportunity or different ideas. And it's all about evoking emotion. And that includes anger, to go out there and shift your thinking to a different perspective, you know? So sometimes I use anger as strategy, you know? My
Well,
wife
I mean,
hates
if
it, but you know, hey.
I bet, but if it's a source of fuel and it keeps you moving, you know, I guess it's better than just getting angry and doing nothing about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so many people do that, you know. So for me, it's like, let me use that. So I tell people we're all like nuclear reactors, and we're just stuffed with all this, you know, nuclear energy, this bad energy that's just sitting in us and burning us down. So I looked at it as like we're like a nuclear reactor. The more I could turn that into good usable energy, I could light up the world.
Well, and in many ways you have been. So dub launches. It's funny. Getting
Hmm.
back to Alan Jackson's story, it's
Hmm.
interesting to me that they were featuring an Alan Jackson car that wasn't a truck. You know, you'd think it would be a very
Right.
stereotypical country music. You know,
No, no, and that I was blown away. I'm like, dude, who's this white dude that has this car? You know, it's
right?
like at the
Yeah,
time, I
it
mean,
was a
I was
mismatch.
very, yeah, I was very limited mentally on what I knew too. I mean, you know, at the time, I don't think I traveled, or I obviously didn't travel internationally. I've only traveled maybe to different cities in my own town because you're afraid of getting killed, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you're talking to somebody that has just a really limited mindset that jumped into business and just started kind of meeting people, and it was just it was really cool. But I think I was just talking about this the other day. Somebody was asking me, and I said, the growing up street and not being easily intimidated and watching people get shot and get shot at, and you know, watching people die and get stabbed and all these different things, you built a different mindset. So when I'm going to meet corporate America, I mean, there was in USA Today, there was an article that came out about me in the money section, and I said, this is easy, man. The automotive industry, you don't have to worry about anyone killing you, you know.
Right.
You know,
That's true.
and I'm sure there's some deaths like Mickey Thompson and stuff like that, you know, rest in peace. But it's a lot safer than obviously what I was into was hip hop and music and lifestyle and fashion and events. Um, so I said that quote, and I remember going to Michelin the next week, and they said, "Is somebody trying to kill you?" Like, you know, they were so concerned that I said that, but I was like, no, it's that was basically saying how difficult the music industry and the stuff that I did before was, and then you get into this more corporate environment with less thugs, and it's
Right.
like, you know, I was the thug. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You were scaring
right?
them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we came to SEMA, and you know, just set up across the street and street team the crap out of it, wrap vehicles, wrap buildings. And
I
SEMA was
remember.
like, what the hell are these guys doing?
Well, they
Um,
didn't know quite what to make of the whole thing, and you know another element that you pulled together is the entertainment side and the celebrity side, and you had some really unprecedented access to some major names to be in your magazine. How did all that stuff come to be?
it started originally, myself, my partner Herman Flores, Haitham Haddad. So we founded the company. Then we borrowed 20 grand from another gentleman named Clay that lent us or gave us the money, invested, and then that's what legitimized the business and took it to the next level. But what's really interesting was we knew about cars. So all of us were kind of car guys, right? So then we
Mhm.
knew what looked hot and what didn't. And to be honest with you, when the celebrities, when we first started, you know, these guys didn't even have rims on their cars. They didn't. They weren't into cars. A lot of them were, either here and they kind of had old school lowriders and this and that, but they weren't. The car culture wasn't as developed as it started to become with everyone. I mean, those guys that were more seasoned in cars and other guys. So with us having that street credibility and knowing what to look good and how to build a really cool car, people are like sold on it. They're like, well, that looks dope. Like, I want to be in it. So like we're a part of this wave of making custom rims and tires and all that stuff socially acceptable out of the hood, out of the streets. So we
Mhm.
took what was hood culture and made it worldwide. We took a name, dub is, the acronym for 20, double dime. That's where I got it from. But they called a 20 bag of marijuana a dub sack. They
Mhm.
called, a lap dance, a $20 dance at the strip club, a dub dance.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I took something that was street credible and made it into something that was corporate credible enough to be in Walmart since 2001 selling product. So that was a really difficult balance that you're able to go on, because how do you maintain that credibility without alienating all of these bigger companies that you could work with? Procter and Gamble, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, Monster Energy, Energizer Battery, I mean, Mr.
Yeah.
Clean, all the big autos, European autos, American autos. I mean, we work with all of them. And here we are, street kids from the neighborhoods getting these corporate deals worth millions of dollars with all these Fortune 50 companies. It was crazy. It was not even believable. Those times. No, I'm serious. There's times when I'd meet with people, including like my parents, and I'm like, "This is a deal I'm working on right now." They're like, "Yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, okay."
Yeah.
You
Whatever,
know,
dude.
yeah, yeah. It's like,
Oh, that's great.
but it's crazy how it all it's like magic. It's like I'm at PepsiCo. I get out of a cab and I'm up in Purchase, New York, and it's me and Pierce Flynn, which is at the time our VP of Business Development for Dub. And we get out of the car and there's this older gentleman standing there looking at the statue, because they have all these statues and stuff. It looks like a college campus, their campus.
Mhm. Wow.
And we're talking to him, and really, really cool guy. Then we walk in to the lobby because we're late for, not late, but we're trying to get to the meeting. And I look up and I see the guy's picture on the wall. He was the founder of Pepsi. We just met the founder of Pepsi on
Holy
accident
smokes.
outside,
Wow.
right? Then we go into the meeting and they're like, we thought he was a ghost. We didn't even think he exists. Nobody's ever seen him and nobody's ever talked to him.
Wow. And you just
I just
happened to
talked.
bump into him.
I just happened to have a great conversation when I talked to him, which I was like blown away. And also, too, my first people I've ever talked to at GM was Gary Calgar and Rick Wagner, the president and the CEO.
Yeah.
I was like, and because we set up a booth at the Detroit Auto Show, which they've been amazing, and they help legitimize our company too. So we set up a display there, and I think we had like Shaq's Escalade and somebody else's Hummer or this or that, and they're on 26s. And I remember there was a group of 4 people, and there was like security and then 2 guys. They walked up in suits, and they're like, asking me about Shaq's Escalade and the Hummer. And I'm like, who are these dudes? Whatever. And then we're talking, and they're like, oh, they're from GM because they have like GM lapels, pins.
One of these dudes is really tall, by the way.
Yeah, no, they are. And I was just like, okay. So I'm talking about the products and everything. They're asking me, and I'm telling them like, Chevy should do this, Chevy should do this, Cadillac should do this, and I don't know
Nice.
who they are.
Excellent.
I'm just,
You're telling Rick Wagner what his
That's even
company should be
better.
doing.
yeah.
Love
I'm
it.
just being I'm just being 100. I'm just being truthful. That's all I knew, you know? And at the end of it, they both gave me their cards and then they walked away. And then other people, it started getting a crowd around the booth. And I'm thinking, like, what the hell's going on, you know? And then when they walked away, I remember they, both gave me the card and walked away. And I didn't even get a chance to read them. I just put them in my pocket because I'm like, these guys from GM, whatever. And then one of the reporters came up to me and said, do you know who that is? And I'm like, some guys from GM, some white guys, And they're like, that's the president and the chairman of the board for GM. And I was just like, oh. And I think I was cocky back then. So I said, I don't give a crap. You know what I'm saying? I probably used a different word than that. But it was like, who cares? But what was interesting was those were the first two people I met from GM.
That's amazing.
So I don't know if it's just luck or what, but luck favors the prepared, and it's like as I progress, I'm aggressive, So I remember going like even with like guys like Dita Zetcha when he took over Chrysler, we're doing all the Chrysler stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody would go to the press conferences and try to stand there and talk to him when he's in the middle of the press conference. Okay.
At the right time.
Dude, I wait outside the booth in another booth and I'm watching him. I'm like a stalker, and I'm watching him go, saying bye, everything. As soon as he steps out of that booth, I beeline to him because I know he's going to pass me.
Mm-hmm.
And I start talking to him. So I was really strategic and I met everybody. Obviously, they love what we did, but I was so lucky because I put myself out there. I was not intimidated by these people. That's why I recommend to people that are there watching, they're human beings. He bleeds red just like I do. It doesn't matter whether he's making 20, 30 million a year and he's the president of this major corporation and I'm broke and I'm a street kid. But you know what? They're normal people. They're human beings. They stopped to talk to me. We talked about stuff and eventually we got business done. And thank God for me having that ability to not be intimidated because other people don't know how to respond when they find out who these people are. But for me, I didn't care. I didn't care whether it was the president or the janitor. I'm going to treat them with the same respect.
Well, sure. Yeah. And I think when people talk to you, they understand right away that you're not just some guy that is displaying a car. You've got your head's on straight and you've got ideas and you've got the ability to bring people together. And for a Chrysler or for a GM, that's a secret sauce. They want what you've got. They just, I think they had to realize that you were the guy that was able to help deliver that. And once they figured that out, because you think the way you do and you put together products and events and presentations and the magazines and everything, that's something that they can't do. They don't have that ability on their own. So you were definitely something someone they needed to talk to. So that's really cool that, you pushed to make that happen.
Yeah, they learned really quick. I mean, when I tell people our success was with Dub Magazine, we were Instagram and Facebook before Instagram and Facebook existed. We gave people access to people that they idolized and looked up to, just like right now with, whether it's Kim Kardashian was on the cover of Dub before she even did the TV show. She was at our Dub show and stuff like that. So, and we were doing cool stuff with her. And then, now look at our social media presence. I mean, they are a media mogul and media magnet and channel and everything. And, so it's like back then we were that for it. We were the Netflix, we were the Instagram, we were the Facebook. And then it evolved. And then it's like, if we don't use these tools properly, which I don't believe we did, we have 3.5 million followers, but we should have way more than that. And we should be really leveraging it. But we were kind of stuck. We were stuck between the old school and the new school. We're in that rut, so we only, it's like we only got half of it when we should have engulfed ourselves a little bit more. But, it's all age. When I came into SEMA and, doing the first shows and stuff, I was 16 years old. Man. Then when I launched Dub, I was 24 when I went back to SEMA as Dub, 24 years old. I mean, at 24, you're not thinking about much besides probably having a nice car and trying to talk to as many women as possible.
Yeah, you're trying to just survive that week at SEMA. I remember I was 25 my first year, so that was a head spinner for sure.
Yeah. So it's totally different, but I walked around going like, dude, this is so cool, but what is it going to look like in 10 years? What is SEMA going to look like in 10 years? Is SEMA going to be a virtual show? I mean, you look at all these major auto shows, they're saying they're, Geneva, They canceled the show for next year. New York canceled the show. LA and SEMA are really the only ones that, in my opinion, are still going to try to hold the ground. Everybody else canceled. Geneva's not till next year.
Yeah, that's crazy. They already canceled and for 21.
Yeah, and part of it too is because the car companies are realizing that they could debut it on their own without going to the auto shows, and they could control it. Much like when back in the day we did toys, the Dub City diecast toys and stuff. We did a deal with Jada. We sold over 25 million toys, like Hot Wheel toys. But it was called Dub City,
Yeah.
and it's like we used to have to go to Toy Fair. We had to go to the Hong Kong Toy Fair. Dude, now you don't have to go to any of those shows. Those shows they barely even exist anymore because you could debut your stuff direct to the public.
Well, that's a really interesting concept too, because those are consumer level products, and you still had to do your behind the scenes with distribution, but you've always done really well with distributing your stuff, like you're saying, getting into Walmart and big retailers right out of the box.
Yeah.
We had Peter McGillivray on the show a couple episodes ago, and we were talking about this very same concept of what's the future of these type of events. And I think that releasing products and unveiling things to the consumer, that aspect can certainly be handled in a virtual or online or digital realm. But I still think there's definitely something to be said for the face-to-face meeting to be able to get your business done. For example, if you were watching a live stream of Rick Wagner walk by, you wouldn't have been able to have that time with him.
No, I agree. But now I could hit him up on LinkedIn, or I could, so there's all these new avenues to do that. And then now with, like I use Blue Jeans, we're using Clean Feed right now for this particular thing. I mean, this was not even possible 20 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
So now this is the norm. Think about when our kids are older and their kids, they're not going to go to face-to-face. A face-to-face meeting is going to be like, you're driving a horse and buggy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Well, I'm envisioning you'll be able to drive your car and look at the virtual passenger next to you as a hologram and sit down and talk with them,
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope so. And that way you could go in the carpool and without getting a ticket,
You are a thinker.
Right? Yep. So we'll sell that, hey,
Yeah.
Carpool Buddy, virtual Carpool Buddy.
That's it.
And, we'll get it recognized by the CHP or the Highway Patrol and the state troopers, and you're good. But that's the thing.
Will be the hologram lane.
But that's the thing. It's that forward thinking. It's like, okay, there's this problem. How do we turn it into an opportunity?
Yeah. Well, and to be able to recognize where, like you said, where those holes in the markets are is the gold, because there's a product to fill everything. It's just a matter of getting the right application to where it's really needed, so people want to pull it from you instead of you pushing it on them.
Yeah. And, I've been talking to a lot of venture capital groups and companies and investors and looking in aftermarket automotive. Nobody's looking for any company that has a distributed product right now.
Really?
Yeah. They want direct to retail. That's their biggest growth area. And that's where we're going to invest a lot of money in right now. So
manufacture direct, and I guess the mechanisms are more and more obvious. The ability for a company to pop up a site or to have something through the phone or whatever.
I mean, everybody's selling on Instagram right now. You're just selling in the DMs. You're posting, you're commenting, you're selling in the DMs. I mean, it's a totally different world. It's scary. It's really scary, but I think that everyone needs to really embrace it. And then when you're going direct from a manufacturer to the customer, I mean, your margins could be 100% or higher as opposed to less. With a distributed product, you're working on 10, 20, 30% margin. You could bump that up to 70. So say, you could do a third of the business and make the same amount of money.
Right. And then by doing that, you can provide service as well.
Well, most importantly, I think the biggest thing too, and why we stopped kind of selling our products in big box retail and doing some of the stuff we did, was because the big box retailers and the distributors sometimes stunt our creativeness. They don't allow us to take risks. So when you sell direct, you could take risk, and if it's your risk, you're taking it. But there's enough margin that if you hit something and say you do a whack product, you could blow it out at cost and still recover your costs. So that you're mitigating your risk, but you're able to move and be creative, and that's really what it's about. It's about what's the next best thing, who's the most innovative, how are you reaching these people? And we're reaching 23 million impressions for probably about $5,000.
Huh.
You know
Wow.
what I'm saying? So it's a different game. If it's like, there's all of these racehorses, and if you know how to ride them and you know how to take care of them, you're going to be very successful. But the problem is people are still trying to pull trailers with this racehorse. It just doesn't work, you
Yeah,
know?
they're trying to plow with it.
Yeah. So, and then they're getting hurt or all these other things because it's not designed for that. This is a racehorse. You get it out and it goes fast. It's really strong, and
Yeah.
and that's really where business is right now, and it's been there and it's heading there very rapidly, very rapidly. And again, just think about the margins. When you sell direct, you get the margins, but if you don't know how to market the product, you're dead in the water. You could have the best product in the world, no distribution and no marketing, you could be dead. But you could have a mediocre product with great distribution and great marketing, and it'll knock it out of the park.
Well, and we've seen that over and over again. It's not always the best thing that wins.
Yeah, and another thing about going direct to customer is it's a worldwide marketplace. It's open 24/7,
Yep.
worldwide. So you can sell to any country at any time of the day. It's 24/7. It's amazing what the opportunities are, abroad in other countries and how big the market size is and stuff. And it's amazing. It's such a great opportunity, and it's really sad right now because of COVID and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's parts of our business that are affected greatly by it, especially on the publishing side and stuff. But it's like this is you know the world saying, "Hey guys, like if the dinosaurs were to evolve, they would still be walking around right now." So
Right.
we can't be the dinosaurs. We got to be evolving. And for me, I surround myself with a lot of younger people that are really smart, and I help mentor them. But they're helping me probably more than I'm helping them. Don't tell them that. But
It'll just be between us.
yeah, but I mean, the reality of it is their information they're giving me is probably as valuable or more valuable than the information I'm giving them. Plus, I'm an old guy. They ain't gonna listen to me anyways. They're gonna go and make their problems. But I'm old guy that's smart enough to listen to what they have to say and put it all together. You know?
Sure. And
So it's like I've been there, done that. I mean, it's hard to take things from scratch and build them. I mean, Dub is between Dub and the wheel companies and all the other businesses. I mean, this is my seventh company, you know, that I've
Right.
started from scratch. And, a lot of them gross, um, for sure in the millions, double, triple digit millions. So, I mean, track record speaks for itself. But again, still these people, they always ask for help, especially the younger generation. They don't want to listen, It's like trying to tell your kids something. They don't want to listen to you, you
Well,
know?
you didn't either.
No, I know, and that's what makes it so amazing. So for me, I'm just telling them. I basically give them most of the time. I try to piss them off, and part of it is because I want to see how bad they want it, and that's what business is about. It's like when you hear all these negative things, you still want to do it, then yeah, go do it. But when you hear all these negative things and you don't want to do it, then you're not strong enough for this game.
Yeah, yeah. So, there's so many different things that you touch on that I find fascinating. Um, what ends up being the common thread, when your product evolves and you're basically telling us you have to work the systems to be able to reach the people, but you
Mhm.
could reach them and they still might not hear you, so
Well,
what
it's
is
all
it that,
about the product. It's all about the product. If you reach them with the right product, it doesn't matter what the message is. If you have the right product, the key thing is in product development, solve a problem. What is the problem that exists? You know,
Mhm.
if it's like if you got water on your windshield and you're trying to drive, maybe a windshield wiper will solve that problem. So it's a natural progression. If you're
those were
going in your
perceived to be
car,
illegal at one point. Did I ever tell you that?
yes, well, maybe.
Oh man!
Well, see, the thing is, he said perceived, so that's the safety net. But
See how
but
Uh-huh.
the reality of it is, it's like it's just evolving. It's just taking that risk and understanding, kind of, hey, where's the opportunity in this? And there's an opportunity in everything. I mean, whenever I go out and I'm working with people, I show them a toothpick, I show them a cup, I show them a napkin, I show them everything. I said, look, a designer designed that. The guy that did that straw in the whatever glass that they go in or this or that. That guy made millions off of that not the straw, the toothpick with the umbrella. That guy made millions off of that umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's really looking at things. Everyone looks at like, I want to design a car part. No, let's start with something really simple that people actually really need, because you're going to make the most money, and not in just these niches, but most importantly, all those things are designed. Everything we touch, this cord that's in my phone charging, the phone itself, let me ask you another trivia question. What was the first iPhone's inspiration in design?
That's a good question.
Because remember, it was black and chrome, had glass, right?
Yeah.
Some of them were white in chrome.
Yep.
So it had like chrome, right?
Kind of curved back and a flat screen. And
yeah. So where was that? What gave it, where did they get their influence from?
I'll certainly tell you it was not something to comfortably fit your hand.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that goes back to where their influence was.
What was it?
It was the bathroom. So you have the toilet, the porcelain, you have the black, you have the different things, you have the glass. It's not a comfortable place, but it feels clean. That's what they went after.
Interesting. It does almost look like a medicine cabinet kind of.
Yeah, because it feels clean, and that's what they went for. But that's getting in people's psyche and saying, this is clean. This is an experience. They wrap all their cords and stuff, so it feels like you're at Christmas every day. You unwrap the box, and you unwrap everything individually, because they want you to be that kid that's opening 5 presents, not one.
That's true.
So,
Well, they got me.
Yeah. So people love buying their products because the experience is so awesome.
Yeah. That's some heady stuff.
Yeah. Another thing.
Go ahead, man.
Another thing about innovators, right, is you look at like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, and these are innovators. These are guys that are just disruptors of the world and just brilliant, just masterminds. When they're developing a product, you don't think Steve Jobs had the iPhone 11 already designed? He already did, but he matched it with technology and said, okay, we're going to create a progressional map based on technology and based on battery life. And we're going to introduce this in this sequence because it's going to get people to upgrade, and we're going to get these opportunities to sell accessories. But most importantly, we're going to give them the phone that functions to the best it can be with what technology is out there. Today, right? And then tomorrow. And then, so they had a roadmap. If I was going to design the phone, I would have came out with iPhone 10 first, even though I know technology and the battery life one can support it, because it's my ego.
Yeah, you would have tried to hit something amazing right out of the box.
And that's what they do, but you need to have that progression. Same thing with, look at Elon Musk with PayPal. I mean, it's such a disaster with fraud.
Yeah.
And I believe he knew that when he launched it, but it also had all of these great opportunities. He built it and sold it. A guy like me would have stopped and said, oh my God, there's too much fraud. There's nothing to do. Sorry. I'm going to just kill this thing because there's no way anybody's going to want to use it with all this fraud. Right. And I would have spent all my time trying to fix the fraud. He didn't care. Not saying he didn't care, but he knew that it was super valuable despite that there's some fraud issues that could happen. And he was right. And he sold it for a lot of money. Look at battery technology and what he's doing with the Tesla. Look what he's doing with the vehicles and the solar and all these other batteries for homes. I mean, the guy's just like, you know what? This is going to do so good for the world that it doesn't matter if I got to go through these bumps and all that stuff to get there, because once people actually see what it can do, they're going to buy in. Look at all the electric cars now.
It needs to happen for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was smart. I mean, I put my foot in my mouth. I was speaking at this convention. They hired me to speak, and it was an autonomous car convention in San Diego. And this was early on, and I was the keynote speaker. And I remember sitting there talking and about this and that. And then I got this ego shot. And also I took, like, hey, this is a threat to my market, So I kind of took a 180 on the talk. And I said, look, guys, you guys might as well stop doing what you're doing, because nobody wants a car that drives itself. Nobody wants a car. Yeah, this and that. And I went over the enjoyment and blah, blah, blah. And, they were all shocked. I mean, the whole room was silent.
Yeah, this is what we hired you for, pal.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, we're paying this guy. Like, God, you know? And I walked out of there and I was just like, yeah, I told them. Well, guess what? I have a Tesla in my driveway.
Right.
So it was my ego that didn't allow the opportunity and I didn't see it. So I really remind myself of that every time because I guarantee you, all of those engineers that worked on all of the electric cars and all the self-braking and all of those things that I didn't look at it as it's safer. I just looked at it as somebody's trying to limit my enjoyment.
Yeah.
So they
Well,
made it a safer world. And I sat and I guarantee you, if anybody's listening there, I'm sorry because I didn't know. I was ignorant. I was stupid. And I felt like it was a threat to my business. And you guys are the brilliant ones. And you guys were the ones on the cutting edge. And salute to you guys. And guess what? I bought a Tesla.
right. It worked. It worked.
It
So,
worked. And, again, but it's sometimes we don't know. We have such limited information. It's hard to make decisions.
so how do you end up keeping your own, ego and your own ideas in check? Because I think that's a problem a lot of people have is they become a true believer in an idea or a product of their own, and they don't recognize that it might not be the best way to go because they've got money or time invested in it. But it sounds like you've learned to kind of be nimble in that respect to go where the opportunity is.
Well, and part of it, dude, I just feel like I'm blessed. I live longer than I should have. You know what I'm saying? I should have been dead or in jail a long time ago. So it's like I've outlived myself. So I thank God every day for that. And for me, everybody has to have that type of attitude to where it's like, you know what? I'm so fortunate and blessed to be here. What is my, what am I here for? Like, what am I here to do? How do I make a big difference in society? And when I stopped chasing money is when I actually started making money.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different, yeah. When you're stop chasing money, you're going to make money and really focus on doing the right thing. I know people are like, no, it's not, when you do the right thing, you don't make money. It's like the nice guys finish last thing. But at the end of the day, we all get old and the nice guy ends up winning anyway. So it doesn't matter. You might not get them when they're tens. They might be fives by the time you get them, but at least you get them. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well,
But,
that's another good way to look at it.
the reality of it is life changes and everything is temporary. Everything is temporary, and, it's like at one time I had a big old mansion, 9-bedroom house, 15 cars and all that stuff. And guess what? I wanted to commit suicide. I mean, I would stop myself from killing myself almost every day. Business was booming, did over 50 million in this, did this deal, did this, came out New York Times, USA Today, Entrepreneur Magazine, all this stuff. And dude, I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
What was it that made you want to off yourself? I mean, was it anxiety? Was it fear? Was it what was the emotion?
It was all the above. I think part of it was I didn't feel like I deserved to be there. And that's part of it. When you don't feel like you deserve something, you can never keep it. So if you don't feel like you deserve your wife, your kids, your this, your that, your car, you'll never be able to keep it. You won't be happy. So it's really practicing appreciation, and, it's like I tell people, who wins the rat race? A rat. So do you want to be a rat? No, take yourself out of that rat race and really think about what makes you happy and what, really, evokes that emotion. Focus on those things. I'm not saying, and don't quit your day job until your hobby's making more money than your day job. I mean, you could do both. And I encourage people to hustle, hustle. But going back to that thing, it's just, it's a lot of trauma, a lot of negative things that happen to me, a lot of things that I've seen and experienced in my life, family dynamic, just growing up and just being angry and having that anxiety and that fear and, the fear of not being good enough or being smart enough or being strong enough. I mean, that's how I grew up. And, it's just, I had to change my mindset. I had to understand that life is not a zero-sum game where we're not all at zero. And if you go +1, I go -1. It doesn't work that way. It only works that way in like a street corner or a park or something like that. It's not, there's enough business and opportunities for everybody. So I had to really understand that life's not a zero-sum game. And then I had to realize that too, you're only as good as the last thing you did. I mean, I could have this resume that's crazy, but if I'm not doing anything that's really cool today, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be willing to move. I mean, look at us, Dub Magazine launched the truck magazine. It's like, why? Because that's what's trending. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like 80s. And think about it too. History will always repeat itself. It's 80s and early 90s right now. Lower
Yep.
trucks. I mean, remember Trader's Truck Accessories?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I told the founder of that, I said, dude, do you still own the name? Because you could kill it right now with the row pans and all that stuff that you were doing back in the day, and everybody knows your name, like
Right.
still. But you know, I don't, will he ever come out and do it again? I don't know. But dude, it's 80s all over again. People want, I mean, how many Nissan hard bodies do you see out there on Porsche alloys again? It's crazy.
It
I'm like,
is.
dude,
That stuff's
it's
all coming back hard.
yeah, but it's new hot rod. We didn't grow up around 57 Chevys and all that
Right.
stuff and 55s and low boys and we even though we are around it because we're in the culture, that wasn't what we wanted to drive. We wanted to drive a 64 Impala. We wanted to drive a a Honda Civic back in the day or a Toyota Supra or this Nissan hardbody or what I mean, like that's what we wanted when we were younger. That's what I wanted, you know. So I
Yeah, I
guess when
wanted
I
a
get
Monte Carlo
older, I'm like,
SS.
yeah, Monte Carlo SS, Super Sport or this or that. But it's like it's an evolution and it changes. So it's like knowing that like people are building these cars from the 80s, and it's like to me, I mean, you heard all the time the cars from the 80s were some of the ugliest cars ever made, you know.
Mhm. But
But
that's
so
not
was
what
the
matters.
fashion. So was the fashion, but that's all. I mean, I was talking to Chip Foose at SEMA, and I said, "What's next?" The Riddler Award's going to be like a Monte Carlo SS pretty soon. It's going to be that because it's already. I think it was in the 70s. It's going to go in the 80s next. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
it's going to be
definitely
a.
possible.
Yeah, it's going to be a Monte Carlo Super Sport or something like that, or the old school body, not like an 80 Camaro, like the IROC Z. That's
Yeah,
going to be
right.
the Riddler. That's going to be the Riddler car pretty soon.
The Fox body
Or
Mustang.
Fox body Mustang. Old school Saleen Mustang is going to be
Yeah,
the Riddler Award.
yeah, he could be onto something there.
Yeah,
And
I just bumped into Steve Saleen, and they just opened up a Saleen factory in China. You know.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's opportunities all over the place, and there's really good. And sometimes you got to sit it out, and sometimes things got to fall apart before you can put it back together. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, it's being able to roll with those changes and put it back together and have the presence of mind to stay with it is the trick.
Yeah, yeah, but sometimes you got to fully let it fall apart, let it rest in the ashes, and then it's like go forward. It's like I was talking at this one event, and I said, when I'm ready to leave something, I view it as it burned down. Like it just caught on fire. It's over. I'm done. Like, especially, with my relationships with women before, it's kind of like when I'm out, it's like the house burned down. I'm out. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
like a plane
Like,
crash. Huh?
yeah, it's like, and that's the way I view it. So people are like, how do you walk away from some of the things? It's like, yo, it's already burned up. It's done. Like, go, don't go
Yeah.
back and try to look for it. It's like, it's done. You got to go, and I still do that now. I mean, I don't have memorabilia. I don't have photos. I mean, to me, it's like, you're only as good as the last thing you did. I don't want to sit there. And I think it's cool now. I regret that now because like people are asking me, like if I'm doing interviews or, hey, can you send us some photos for this article or this, or they want to do that. I'm like, I don't really have any pictures. And I called the photographers that we work with. I said, hey, do you have any pictures? They're like, no, because you would get pissed off every time I try to shoot you.
Well, there's a line in a John Hyatt song where he says, I've never looked forward to looking back, so I
Yes.
see what you're saying, and some people are more nostalgic than others. I'm fortunate to have a few things from my history that I was telling Mike the other day. I've got a 35 millimeter slide from a camping trip when I was not even 2 years old, and our family went camping in Colorado, and my dad was a police officer, and he bought his old police car. So it's a 1970 Chevy Biscayne 4-door police car without the lights on it, because it was a civilian car at that point. And
That's
it
cool.
had it was cool. It had a 400 small block in it, and it was a neat car. Little picture of me leaning against this car, and in the picture you can see the front license plate. Well, I still have the license plate.
That's cool.
And to me, that was cool because it's a physical connection. That plate was there that same day when I was there, when I was 2, So, but I'm not a guy, like you said, who kind of has documented my whole existence from day one just to have that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're right. You could burn all kinds of time looking back when you really should be looking forward.
Yeah, it is like the analogy I use would be like if you're a car company and the new car company is looking through the windshield going forward, the old car company is driving in reverse looking through their rearview mirror because they're only concerned about their heritage. They're handicapping themselves for the future. And they're not going to be able to drive as fast and as accurate because they're going backwards in their rearview mirror instead of using their whole windshield. So it's like that. And then I think also too, it's like, it depends on your childhood. I had a childhood. So it's like, I don't want any memorability to remind me of that crap.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, dude, it's like I spend my whole life trying to forget about all of these things. I don't want a reminder of whatever it is,
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I do get nostalgic and people send me some photos from back in the day or, like my mom sent me some photos of when I was a kid and stuff. And it's like, dude, it's cool. It's cool.
Well, and to that point, I mean, that picture, that little camping trip, like I was telling you a minute ago, to me, I still look at that as one of the greatest times of my life, and I wasn't even 2. So I can totally see that if you had a crappy childhood, you don't want to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's a tough one, and again, I think that's just kind of going on in my mind and then just feeling like, dude, not good enough, or just broken and shameful,
Well,
it's a tough one.
You're a guy who came from a pretty messed up background in a part of the world that had its challenges on the street, your own physical limitations with your eyes and all the rest of it, and yet you've been able to power through and be very, very successful and still remain positive and influential and inspirational to all the rest of us. You make guys like Mike and I that had, normal childhoods and we didn't have disabilities and we're going, what the hell did we do wrong here? Thanks a lot, Miles.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys are doing amazing and everything. You're such icons in this industry, and thank you for all your contributions and all your accomplishments. I mean, it's just, it goes back to the nuclear reactor. And I guarantee you that if we really dig deep into both your childhoods, there's trauma. You know what I'm saying? There's trauma in it, and there's trauma at any age. And, and that's kind of what I feel like God put me here to do, is say, look, let's expose that trauma. Let's get it out and put it on the table so people could actually see it. Because I was more embarrassed or, shameful of things and all that other stuff. But now I talk about it. Once I talk about it, it's like, dude, do I care what that person's going to say? No, because I talked about it. And that unlocks that demon within. It's just put it out there. And then when I started talking about things, people started grouping around going, hey, I feel the same way. Hey, that happened to me. Oh yeah. Oh my God. We're all the same. We're like each other. And then you group them all together. And it's like, guys, we're all screwed up, but we're together. And that's all that matters. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And it's great because you're right. If you can talk about the stuff, you kind of let the air out and you shine some light on things, and then they don't seem to be so traumatizing or so scary anymore.
No. And we're, again, it's like, dude, I mean, going back, like I said, I was going, literally crazy mentally. And my life was excellent. I mean, I was locking down these big deals, flying out to all these Fortune 50 companies. And dude, it was like on fire. But what I had to do was I had to right size my life. I came back, sold my big house, sold all 15 cars, just basically sold everything and kind of hit the reset button and started over. And I lost a lot of money in property. I lost some money in cars. But to me, I didn't care because I knew it was going to keep me alive. Right. So you ever heard of the 7-year itch?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the 7-year itch, from what I heard, was derived from the American Indians, the Feather Indians. And every 7 years, they would trade all of their belongings, including their wives.
Oh,
why would they do that? That's another trivia. Why would they do that?
Yeah, right.
Why
would they do that?
Does it pick up some bad influences and they want to get rid of it and start fresh?
That could be part of it, but that's not the main reason.
Kevin?
Well, I'm trying to figure out why it's every 7 years. I kind of think like Mike, if you can dump, everything you've got.
Like your wife, every 7 years, you're going to be happy.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
if
my
that's
wife
true.
listens to this show, and honey, there's no way in the world I would ever want to do that.
We all know that that is not the case on my side either, and hopefully she wouldn't want to dump me every 7 years because I'd be gone a couple of times already by now. But just what is the reason if you know what this is?
Yeah, so they don't want to have any emotional connection to a thing. They don't want to have any emotional connection to a thing because when you have emotional connections to things, that thing controls you.
Yeah.
They're not wrong about that.
Yeah. So I kind of live by that now. So I basically right size my life. People would say, "Oh, you downsize, whatever." I make the same amount of money, maybe even more, and I live in a 1-bedroom house. I drive a Ford pickup truck right now, a Ranger. I got a dirt bike. That's what makes me happy. I used to have Lambos, Ferraris, and everything, and I realized that those things made me want to kill myself.
Wow.
Man. Well, and I can see that. I had an experience when I was living in LA working for Hot Rod where the Hot Rod shop got broken into and a lot of stuff got stolen. And I don't do well with loss. And it took me a while after that to be able to kind of connect with certain things because I had a fear that everything could be taken away at any second.
Well, so the real question is this: is your fear of loss or is your fear of control? Because that sounds like more of a control fear that's causing the loss as part of that. It's almost like a symptom to the sickness, right? So it's a control thing that creates this loss as part of it, as a symptom of the control. Because I have the same thing, and that's one of my biggest things. Was I always felt like I was out of control, not in a like I'm partying out of control, just like always, like being held down or put in a box or this or that, and just really taken advantage of, or just really treated in a poor way. So that's all I saw myself as. And it was more of a control thing. It's just like when I say I was afraid to fly. I wasn't afraid to fly. I was afraid to die.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just really kind of dissecting that. I do a lot of work on myself in that area with myself, and I work with psychics and I work with therapists just to keep me open and focused. And it's a tough thing because I want to close up like you wouldn't believe. I want to put concrete walls around me every day to protect myself. But I realize that being vulnerable and sharing that vulnerability has been the key to my real success.
Yeah, well, and that's something that anybody who talks to you for more than a minute realizes that you're not the guy who is all about me, and you share your vulnerability willingly and your story and everything else, and it I think it really draws people to you. So I would agree with that statement.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, we've already run a little bit long, but I really appreciate you joining us. We had a really nice chat over in Saudi, and I thought it'd be a nice time to get together again because I don't see you very often. I see you at SEMA and a couple other events, but I always appreciate your time. It's very valuable, and I appreciate that. So definitely thanks for joining us. And I know that this might have been one of the few times, Mike, where the people probably want to hear more from our guests than our trivia questions.
Absolutely.
But we promised, so it's time to reveal the answers. And Mikey, you went first, so
all right, right on. All right, so I painted a nice picture of you cruising down on an open stretch of highway, wide open, going 150 miles an hour. And I asked what was the speed rating your tire would need to be to do that safely. And Miles said Z rating, and Kevin, you concurred. And congratulations, boys. That is absolutely right. You need a Z rated tire to go 149 plus miles an hour.
Yeah.
We win nothing. All right.
Yeah.
So, Miles, you were up in the second spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
question.
about the windshield wipers, right?
Yes.
So, were they once illegal? And they were once illegal. In 1903, they put a patent on it and they put it on vehicles. but it was considered a driver's distraction. And then so they had it's kind of like, loud mufflers or whatever it is right now, seatbelts and stuff. They deemed it illegal, legal, not legal, and then they made it legal after. So it was actually a driver's distraction and deemed illegal originally when it first came out. Yeah, and it's no different than a touchscreen, touchscreen in your vehicle. That was deemed illegal, and now it's starting to become legal. So it's kind of weird. It's a similar type of thing.
Yep. So I think I got that right.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you
and
did.
Mike got half of it right. All right. Well, my question was pretty lame, but it was, what is the earliest known mention of the term dub in film? Of course, a little nod to Dub Magazine. Miles said early 1900s, and Mikey said Y2K, possibly Fast and Furious. Well, congratulations, Mr. Miles Kovacs, because it was in the title of a silent comedy film called The Dub in 1919.
Oh, my gosh.
It's funny because I was going to say 1920, but part of it, too, is because that's when the TV was invented around that same time. So it has to be about the same time.
Yeah, there you go. Well, 1919, so you're a big winner there.
Nicely done, sir. Nicely done.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so for people that are interested to learn more about what you're doing, Miles, and follow along, throw us some social sites and some stuff where people can learn more.
So it's Miles, Myles, Kovacs. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then dubmagazine.com, DUBMAGAZINE.com, TISwheels.com, and Dropstars Wheels, DROPSTARS.com.
Awesome.
Dropstars.com. Yeah.
One thing that I certainly love about this industry is, we say it all the time, old cars make new friends, and cars cross all the cultural barriers. It doesn't matter who you are. A cool car, cool truck is cool to everybody, and there's such a cool glue there in this car culture that it doesn't see color, it doesn't see anything, it just sees cool. So I invite people to check things out that it might not be what you're into every day, but you can certainly appreciate it. And I know next weekend, as a matter of fact, I'm going to see a whole bunch of your products because I will be working at the Four-Wheel Jamboree up in Pennsylvania, in Bloomsburg, and there's going to be a lot of TIS wheels and Dropstar stuff there too, for sure. So
that's cool. That's good.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, right on.
Well, be careful with all the COVID stuff out there, and everybody out there, just be careful. It's very sad and very tough what everybody's going through right now.
It is, and thank you for that reminder. Everybody, be careful. And this was really great. Again, we really sincerely appreciate you taking the time, buddy.
Anytime, I appreciate it, and I appreciate it. And then another thing I was going to say was, if people want to see more of my films or my speaking, they could Google me, and I did a TEDx talk that they could look at from back in the day that kind of breaks down kind of similar to what we talked about. And there might be some nuggets in there that people could pick up. So it's a TEDx talk.
I've watched that, and there's more than just nuggets. I'll tell you right now, there's great big chunks. So
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me too. It's a true pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, Miles. And to everybody else listening, we invite you to subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, the whole list. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them.
Spotify, iHeartRadio.
Right. That's a good one.
The whole shebang.
And or you go to the v8radio.com website or find us on Facebook and whatnot. And we appreciate everybody tuning in and checking out the show. Click the subscribe button to
never miss an episode.
Never miss an episode, but you never know who the guest is going to be. And for those who subscribe, they really got lucky this time.
Amen. Sure did.
Yeah. So
Thank
for Mr. Miles Kovacs and Mike Q-Ball Clark, I'm Kevin Oosty reminding you to keep those 20-inch wheels and bigger rolling, and we'll talk to you next time on V8 Radio.